To say that I don't test the durability of a device is an understatement. How's it going, everyone? Dog Walker Dave here. Today on the channel, I'll be giving my long-term review of the popular Fenix 6 line from Garmin, specifically the Pro Sapphire. Before I get into the review, I'm going to give my full disclosure. Garmin did not provide me with this device. I paid for it with my own money. So I'll be giving my unbiased review of having this device for approximately 6 months now. So I feel I can give a pretty darn good overview / review of my experiences with the Garmin Fenix 6 line. So what to expect from today's video? I'm going to go over several things. Number 1, durability. Number 2, GPS and heart rate recording / accuracy. Number 3, mapping and courses. Number 4, what do I actually use this for? Number 5, the battery life. Number 6, what are my overall thoughts of this device? Let's jump right into it. First up is durability. Before I get into it, this is a bulky device. It's not a Garmin Forerunner. It's not a Garmin Instinct, Apple Watch, or any other small device. This is a big, bulky device. This watch screams, take me on adventures. I got your back. I have put this watch through the ringer, and the rinse cycle for that matter. From runs and hikes in the Rocky Mountains and close to home, I've taken this device through pretty much every type of condition. Down to minus 35, up to plus 25 degrees Celsius, off trail, on trail, rugged terrain, bushwhacking, all sorts of conditions. And it does not have a single scratch on it. Now, originally, I purchased the regular Fenix 6 version, traded that in, picked up the 6 Pro, and there are a couple of reasons for that, but one is the Sapphire screen. Sapphire screen is basically indestructible. It is not indestructible, but if you're doing something that will crack or break the screen, maybe you shouldn't be doing that, because this is a very durable screen and the bezel is extremely durable as well. Not a single scratch on it. If you've followed along any of my adventures over the last almost year, you'll see that I am not easy on watches. I abuse watches. They're meant as a tool, and I have total faith in this device. Now with the Sapphire lens, just my opinion, but I think all watch manufacturers should put a Sapphire lens on a device. I know it costs a few extra dollars. It can't be that much considering the scale that Garmin and Coros and Polar and Apple and all of these companies make watches at, specifically Garmin. So if it's any type of outdoor watch, in my opinion, I think it should be a Sapphire lens on all devices. In saying that, I know that Sapphire is not as optically clear as Gorilla Glass, etc. I would take the durability of Sapphire over any lens material every single day of the week. Number 2, GPS and heart rate. Now, most of you would agree that this is a very hot topic. People just get bent out of shape on the internet, comments about GPS accuracy, heart rate accuracy. You have to consider that, number 1, optical heart rate, no matter how good it is on a device, is not perfect. The closest I've seen to a chest-based heart rate strap would be the Apple Watch. The Garmin, it's hit and miss. Sometimes it's spot on or it's really close. Other times, especially at the start of a workout, if you're not locked down tight enough on the watch itself, the watch band around your wrist, I find that the readings can be a little bit off. GPS recordings, same thing. Sometimes they're really good, sometimes they're a little bit off. And what I feel is that some people, when they buy a GPS watch, they expect the accuracy to be within the nearest 5 meters on a 10-kilometer run or hike. In my opinion, that's not reasonable. These are not military or professional grade devices. You're getting all the features of a smartwatch, GPS tracking, heart rate tracking, pulse oximeter, all this wrapped into one small package. You can't expect it to be perfect. Is it good enough? Yeah, I believe it's good enough. Back to heart rate recording. The biggest problem is that for optical heart rate on any wrist-based watch is that I find it hard to strap it down tight enough on your wrist without it being too constricting, especially when you start a run or a hike or outdoor activity, and it might be a little bit tight on your wrist, but as you go through the activity, if you're out there for several hours, your wrist, your hands, everything will swell, especially if you get up to any altitude, and then it becomes too tight on your wrist, so you have to loosen it off. So there's always going to be a trade-off with heart rate, precision, and accuracy on a wrist-based device. Take it all with a grain of salt. That's just my 2 cents on it. Next up, number 3 is mapping / course building. There are 2 reasons why I switched from the regular Garmin to the Pro Sapphire. Number 1, Sapphire Crystal. Number 2, the ability to have mapping on the device. Mapping and course building are 2 different things. On the Fenix 6 regular, you could actually follow along with courses and it gave you turn-by-turn direction. But with the Fenix 6 Pro line, you can actually have full mapping. Granted, it's a 1.3-inch screen. It's not a big screen, especially for someone like myself with old eyes. It's not fantastic just because it's a small screen. But the detail of Garmin and their mapping compared to every other manufacturer, Coros, Suunto, Polar, Apple doesn't really even have mapping on their device except for some third-party apps that you can put on your device. Garmin is hands down the leader when it comes to mapping. Originally, they were a straight GPS company, so it goes to stand that they have a tremendous amount of data that they've collected over many years. And then they just took the data that they use for GPS, mapping software, etc., and just switched it over to consumer-grade devices. The ability to have maps, course navigation, and points of interest on a device, especially when I take it out into the mountains when there's usually no cell phone coverage, is very valuable to me. Now, in saying that, as part of my, I would call it emergency preparation, anytime I go out into the mountains, I make sure that I have maps downloaded onto my device, and sometimes I have an actual physical map of the area. It is very convenient to have mapping built into the device. Remember, when you're going into areas with no GPS connection, make sure that you have multiple contingencies built in. Just a safety tip for everyone. Before I move on to my next point, it'd be great if you hit that subscribe button if you find this video helpful, entertaining, useful in any way. Point number 4, battery life. Now, with the Fenix line, the Fenix Pro specifically, the 6 Pro, just the medium size, not the 6S, not the 6X, but the regular size, Garmin claims you can get 2 weeks of smartwatch use and up to 35 hours with full GPS on. I know many people have tested these devices and say that 35 hours is a bit of an overestimate, but if you turn off optical heart rate and all these other features on a watch, you're going to get at least 30 hours of GPS recording. If you need anything more than that, just plug it into an external battery pack and charge your device along the way while it is recording data. It is great battery life. Are there GPS watches with better battery life? Yes, Coros does have better battery life overall, but 30 hours at least full GPS recording, 2 weeks of standby smartwatch features. I usually will charge my watch once a week anyways. So for me, this is more than enough for any adventure I've ever gone on. Now, with that in mind, if you know anything about the chemistry of batteries, all batteries will degrade over time. No battery will keep the same charge 2 years down the road. It's just the nature of how batteries operate. Just maybe keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking for any type of GPS watch. My second last point. I also own an Apple Watch Series 7, but where do I use my Garmin Fenix? Well, put it this way. Anytime I'm going off trail, any adventures out into the mountains, anytime we have inclement conditions, I always go for my Fenix 6. What's the reason for that? Well, number 1, I don't have to worry about breaking the screen or ruining the device. Apple Watch is decently tough, but it doesn't even hold a candle to the Fenix 6. Number 2, especially when I'm out in the mountains, off trail, it's nice to have that extra mapping feature. Number 3, reason why I choose the Fenix 6 over the Apple Watch 7 is battery life. I've had the Apple Watch 7 record data for 4.5 hours and still have 50% battery life, but it doesn't pale in comparison to the Fenix 6. And lastly, anytime there's inclement weather, rain, snow. It doesn't rain often here in Calgary, but snow for sure. Or when it's extremely cold and I have to wear gloves or mitts, it is very nice to have a 5-button layout, because there's nothing more frustrating than having to pull off your gloves or mitts, trying to swipe on the screen of the Apple Watch, even though it's got a great responsive screen. But to have the 5-button layout, I can even use it with full mitts on and it works flawlessly. In my years and years and years of running, buttons work better than touchscreen every single time. Lastly, what's my overall verdict? Well, the Fenix 6 is overkill for most people. Unless you're doing extremely long adventures, or you're like me and you like to go off trail or hiking up in remote areas in the mountains, etc., where you know your device is going to take a lot of abuse, you probably don't need the Fenix 6 Pro Sapphire. Now, in saying that, when you have a device like this, you know it will last a long time. So yes, it's expensive to get off the bat, but if you count the number of years that you can have something like this and you can rely on it, I think it's an investment. Yes, I do know that Garmin released the Fenix 7 about a month and a half ago or so. They're very difficult to get, first of all, but secondly, they are quite a bit more expensive than the Fenix 6 line, especially now where a lot of places you can get the Fenix 6 on sale. If I were in the market to get a new GPS device, would I choose the Fenix 6 if I were you and you had the money to spend on an expensive GPS watch? Yes, without a doubt. Having the extra mapping feature and a sapphire crystal on an already great ecosystem and device, my opinion, it is only worth it. Garmin knows how to build watches, not just the watch, but the ecosystem that's around the watch with Garmin Connect, changing out the watch faces, ability to download maps, and the list goes on. Those are my 2 cents. Thanks for following along, everyone. I appreciate all of your support. And again, if you found this video entertaining, useful in any way, consider hitting that subscribe button. As I always say in my videos now, get outside. Thanks for watching, everyone. Peace.